Catch the new show tonight on Yuba-Sutter.live for your information with an update on the Marysville Ring Levee.
Tom Engler, MBK Engineers. Going back to 1986, we had the big 86 flood.
You'll learn the history of Yuba County's levee repairs, where the money's been coming from, where it's been spent, the current status of the levees around Marysville, what's left to be done bringing the city of 12,700 people 200-year flood protection, and why that's important for Marysville development. The Marysville Ring Levee Update. A portion of the Yuba Water Agency meeting from Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. On our new show, For Your Information, on Yuba-Sutter.live. Presented by Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada Counties.
Yuba-Sutter.live. It's the truth that comes through. Yuba-Sutter.live. It's the truth that comes through. Yuba-Sutter.live. It's the truth that comes through.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada Counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada Counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada Counties.
Item 10, consider adopting Resolution 2025-21, approving flood risk reduction, Third Amendment to the line of credit and the amount of $300,000 of Marysville Levee Commission. And this one also was recommended by POD and is also being presented by Sammy Knoll. Go ahead, Sammy.
Last one, I promise, for today. For this project, it's been a while since I believe the board has been updated on the Marysville Ring Levee project. So we wanted to combine this this request with just a quick update. So I believe Tom Engler is in the audience, and he will provide the update for the project.
Okay, great. Tom, you're up. And thank you for coming and presenting.
Thank you, Chair Reddick, members of the board, Tom Engler, MBK Engineers. I'm the project manager for the Marysville Levee District on the Marysville Ring Levee project. I assumed that title in early 2007 and have been working diligently on this project ever since. So going back to 1986, we had the big 86 flood. The Yuba Water Agency was able to get the Army Corps of Engineers to do a reconnaissance study for both RD 784 and Marysville. The Corps in the late 90s approved the project. Congress authorized the project to complete repairs to most of the Feather River in RD 784. That's known as Reach 1. That's Reach 2. The Yuba River in RD 784, that was Reach 1, and then 5.5 miles around Marysville that needed repairs, that was considered Reach 3. So as you're aware, Marysville protects 2 state highways, a couple railroads, approximately 12,700 residents. And a stat that I bring up often is that Marysville had nearly 12,000 people in the year 1900 and has 12,700 now because it's confined by the Ring Levee. So everybody is protected by it. It also has Right Out Hospital, as you're all aware. So obviously going back, gold rush days, hydraulic mining debris, constructed the ring levee. The government eventually passed the Jackson Act in 1917, which authorized the federal project levee system, which Marysville is a part of. Locally constructed levees were approved through the 50s as part of that. The 55 flood happened and the Corps came in the late 50s and raised the levee. As you can imagine, having a ring levee around a very urbanized area is terrible for the risk to life analysis. So in Marysville, it's extremely high. Our modeling shows that routes become impassable within a couple hours. The entire city would be fully inundated within 24 hours, whereas you have these other floods where a levee breaks and it takes 3 to 5 days for the basin to fill. Marysville will be completely full within 24 hours. Most important thing about this is here in California, our floods happen when the water's cold. Water temperature is below 50 degrees, gets you 30 to 60 minutes of consciousness and then eventually leads to worst. So this is a slide that kind of shows the construction history. The levees got originally built and continued to get raised after the Corps project came in. They raised it up to the height you see there. And then after the 55 flood, they came in and raised it one more time. The interesting part about that is where most levees have 3 feet of freeboard, Marysville was constructed to have 5 to 7 feet of freeboard because of the risks to life even back that they recognized back in the 50s. So as I kind of touched on earlier, after the 97 flood, the Water Agency took several key flood risk reduction initiatives for the resident of the county. In 2000, you became the non-federal sponsor for the Yuba River Basin California General Reevaluation Report. That was to take a second look at the 1998 congressional authorization after the 97 flood to make sure that that project would indeed get the level of protection required. In 2002, the Water Agency also completed a supplemental flood control project study to evaluate improvements to provide additional risk. That study basically said we need to fix all the urban levees in the county, and then we should move on to looking at the dam and rural areas. And then you partnered with the county, Three Rivers, and the state to implement advanced repairs to RD 784, knowing that work needed to be done while the Corps was in the process of studying it. The Corps study progressed and it became apparent that the ring levee portion would not require significant design changes. So in 2008, we were successfully able to advocate that it be a separable element so construction could begin. In 2009, we learned that ARRA funding, ARRA funding was available for the project. So we worked with the state and Corps to do a quick turnaround on an engineering documentation report. And a 3-party project partnership was signed in 2010, and construction was initiated on phase 1 back behind the high school. So the project is currently estimated at about $166 million. The 3-party agreement is between the Army Corps of Engineers, that's USACE, CVFPB, which is the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, and the Marysville Levee District. It's funded 65% federal, 35% non-federal, and the non-federal split the non-federal costs. So us and the state split it 70-30. So the state picks up 70% of those costs. We are also responsible for associated costs with lands, easement, rights-of-way, relocation, and disposal areas, as well as we have to put up 5% cash towards the project. So the Water Agency was a local sponsor for the Yuba feasibility study, took the lead with the county and Marysville Levee District support to manage this study and provide 100% of local share. Your efforts also secured $70 million of the available $90 million in Prop 13 Costa Machado Water Act of 2000 for Yuba feather improvements. Those were completed in RD 784. Prop 13 and future Prop 1E84 funded the majority of the $450 million of work in Three Rivers in RD 784. That then became the local share of the Marysville Ring Levee project. So the Army Corps ended up picking up all but the 5% cash on the Ring Levee project. And then just some other funding that you guys provided for the project that got us the funding for Marysville. And the Feather River setback levee reduced water surface elevations from 0.9 to 1.6 feet on the Feather, Yuba, and Jack Sioux levees around Marysville. So that work also helped to reduce risk to the city. So as I mentioned, all the work completed with state and local funding was approved for credit towards future work. However, due to delays with GRR, the water agency advocated to move forward with approval of a small portion of the potentially eligible credit. Or completed a post-authorization change document, and these are all just terms that you probably will never need to know again, but they're important for these types of presentations. And then approved Amendment 1 to the project partnership agreement in 2017 that allowed the $42.8 million of credit for the Reach 1 repairs to be used for Marysville. And that credit covers approximately 90% of the $12 million local share of the Ring Levee project. So this is a slide just showing the federal funding. We have been very fortunate, and with the help of the water agency and our advocacy, we've been able to keep the project in the federal budget all the way up until now. We also were able to get $35.5 million in the FY19 President's Budget, and then Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, known as supplemental funding, which included $61.6 million to complete the project. Non-federal share, our 5% cash. We paid that back in 2012, $42.8 million in credit available from RD 784. State currently has plenty of funding still allocated to the project for the remaining lands, easements, and rights of way. We still have some outstanding payments to PG&E. And then funding comes from a 2009 assessment district that the Marysville Levee District passed that included $150,000 a year for improvements. The water agency is providing grants and a line of credit around $3 million to date to help cover the share. So here's the actual project that was constructed. You can see phase 1 up in the north area behind the high school. That was completed in 2012. Phase 4A, a small berm in Binney Junction, was the next phase. And we moved around to just between the 5th and 10th Street bridges. Phase 2A, we did that in 3 separate contracts. Phase 2A North did north to 5th Street. 2A South was between 5th Street and the Yuba. Phase 2C was between the railroad and Highway 70 on the Yuba. Then we went up and completed phase 3. You can see phase 3 actually shows it wrapping around the corner back onto Jack Sioux. That portion of the project did not get constructed, and that'll be important later. And then the final phase, which we just completed, was between the PG&E substation and Highway 70, phase 2B. So in 2021, the Corps decided that costs would exceed the initial Bipartisan Budget Act 2018 supplemental funding, and remaining project features could not be completed without additional funding. Those included the phase 2B cutoff wall, the Highway 70 gap, which was a berm under Highway 70 in the south area, the Union Pacific Railroad gap near the wastewater treatment plant at the confluence of the Feather and Yuba, and the north area, which is that small piece of Jack Sioux that did not get constructed. 2022, they assessed the effectiveness of the remaining features to understand the risks and benefits of those features, and that analysis found that the UPRR gap in north area reaches would not adequately improve the overall project performance. So they didn't say that work didn't need to be done. They just said that it wouldn't provide enough benefit to justify federal expenditures. In that same year, they went to what they call the Change Control Board in Washington, D.C. to get approval for the additional funds to construct the Phase 2B cutoff wall and Highway 70 gap projects, and directed the Sacramento District Army Corps to conduct a levee screening risk assessment. That assessment was completed in 2024 and looked at the overall project risk with no work in the UP gap, the north area, and with and without the Caltrans Binney Junction project. Here's what that analysis concluded. The north area concluded risk is not tolerable. The Finger Levee, which is the Highway 70 portion heading north out of town, concluded risk is not tolerable. The west area, which is the area between phase 4 and phase 2A that had slurry walls put in after the 97 flood. They concluded the risk was low and previous work meets design. The UPRR gap concluded risk is not tolerable, and the east area, which is the area between phase 2B and 3 behind basically near Simpson Lane, west of Simpson Lane, concluded risk is low and no additional works required. However, the project design team completed additional analysis to determine there is no federal economic interest in completing the additional work, even though risk is not tolerable. Caltrans is currently repairing the finger levees as part of their Benny Junction project. They plan to start that here in the next month or two, and it'll take about 2.5 years to finish that work. So these are the areas that we're talking about. You can see that north area, the piece that did not get constructed along Jack Slough, basically between the Recology Yuba-Sutter landfill heading out towards Jack Slough. Finger Levee, which is Caltrans Highway 70 leaving town to the north, and the Union Pacific Railroad gap down by the wastewater treatment plant. So Army Corps originally included 300 feet of cutoff wall as part of the phase 3 design based on marginal seepage results. GEI, under contract with the state, completed an analysis in December 2020 that concluded the cutoff wall is indeed needed. Evaluation also included a sensitivity analysis that indicated additional exploration should be completed. 2024, the Corps semi-qualitative risk assessment concluded risk is not tolerable, but that subsequent analysis determined there's no economic benefit. And then these, under contract to the city, HDR concluded that the levee could not be certified to the current state urban levee design criteria without at least additional geotechnical explorations. There's too many unknowns. So this is a quick slide on the finger levee. So what's going on there is that the Caltrans project has to lower the road to get under the new railroad bridges. That lowering of the road induces additional seepage. So while the Corps planned to install 6 relief wells along Highway 70, Caltrans is making the problem worse. So their project now includes slurry walls in both those levees to protect us from seepage. Union Pacific Railroad gap. This is the gap between the two cutoff walls. You can't dig a cutoff wall through a railroad. The railroad won't let us do that, obviously. So we have been analyzing what happens with that gap. What we've determined is that the city wastewater treatment ponds create an increased seepage gradient that does not meet criteria. Corps design contemplated either a berm or jet grout cutoff wall, but eventually determined not to meet economic justification standards. In 2025, HDR, under contract to the city for the certification, concluded the levee could not be certified. Their proposal would be to fill the city ponds since they're no longer being used. They exist as overflow ponds, so we plan to work with the city to address that. So next steps, the city contracted effort to perform a gap analysis for certification. That report was completed June 2025. That's a report that paid HDR to do this analysis. As we've mentioned, that report concludes the project can be certified to FEMA, so we're starting the FEMA certification process, but additional evaluation and potential works needed to meet state criteria. City's in the process of working to complete the FEMA certification. It will require internal drainage analysis, so it's about a $450,000 effort. The city's evaluating that scope right now. And then they will need to complete the urban levee design criteria certification. That'll be about another $500,000. They have a scope to do that. We just need to complete the additional analysis and potential construction before that certification can be completed. Caltrans must complete the finger levee cutoff walls, which should be done by end of 27. And then we'll have to develop the report and do an independent expert review. So it'll take till about 2030 to get that completed. So with that, I will open it up for questions. I covered a lot there, so please have me back up and ask away.
All right, any questions of the directors?
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. Through the chair. First of all, thank you for the work you've put in. And what year did you say you started? 2006?
2007.
2007.
February 2007.
Okay. Well, thank you for your life's work. Marysville definitely appreciates all the efforts that the county put forward as a whole to get them to this point. So the continued work and investigating every avenue, trying to make these final repairs come to fruition is greatly appreciated. So, but I also wanted to thank Sammy for her time on this as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just had some questions for clarification. What does FEMA certification do for us? What does ULDC certification do for us? What are those effects?
Yes, so without FEMA certification, so the city of Marysville back in 2008 when the southern portion of Yuba and Sutter counties got remapped to FEMA, the city of Marysville was granted what's called a provisionally accredited levee. It was supposed to be good for 2 years, which it was, but because the Army Corps was starting a project, FEMA's basically said, we're just going to stand back and not do anything to see how the Corps project progresses. FEMA came back just a few months ago and said, we've waited long enough. What's going on? Is the project able to be certified? If not, we're going to start the remapping process to map the city of Marysville into a high-risk flood area. So with that, it would become mandatory insurance for any federally backed mortgage. Insurance rates are currently about $3,200 a year per house. So it would be a big economic impact to the residents of the city. The state urban levee design criteria, there was a law passed in 2007 after Hurricane Katrina and the 2006 flood. The state passed a series of flood legislation, including SB 5. That bill says that a city or county land use agency cannot provide any discretionary permits in an area that protects more than 10,000 residents without making a finding that they have 200-year protection. At the time, they said you either need to make that finding or have a plan in place to get 200-year level of protection by the end of 2025, but everything has to be complete by the end of 2020. Fortunately, Marysville was included in some recent legislation that extends that deadline from 2025 to either 2030 or 2040. I can't remember which it was. So we bought ourselves a little bit of time, but we have to get that. Otherwise, the city could not issue a building permit. They could not issue a tentative map. They could not subdivide any parcels. No discretionary actions that create any additional risk in the city. So if somebody's house burned down, they could not issue a permit to
Great explanation. Thank you. And then the two gaps that we're responsible for, because the finger levee is going to be Caltrans, the one on the north, one on the south, the water gets high. Obviously, most of the walls are up. But when you say a gap, like water is going to be pouring through that gap into it, like what do we mean there?
No, so we've placed slurry walls or seepage protection around most of the entire city now. These are gaps in that protection. So it's a gap in protection, not a gap in the levee.
Okay.
So it just means that the levee has not been improved to current standards.
So there is protection there. We don't have any reason to foresee a practical problem. It would merely be for the certification purposes, which you explained.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? Any other comments?
Comment, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tom, human nature is to have short memories, I think, and in those decades between floods, it's important that we keep working, and it would be easy, you know, the wheels of government and funding and all that can turn really slowly, and if you don't keep your nose to the grindstone, we could get behind on these projects, and so it's great to see that history and see that, you know, work has just continued. And, you know, that will save lives one day. And so we owe you a thank you and everybody else who's worked on this, Sammy and other staff at the water agency in Marysville. And it's incredible how complicated 5 or 6 miles of levee could be. There's so many things you're dealing with there. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that we appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I move that we approve the amendment to the line of credit for a time extension until December 31st, 2027, an increase in the amount of $300,000 for a total line of credit of $2.8 million.
Second motion.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
One moment. Sammy Nall would like to speak.
Okay.
Thanks everyone. You jumped ahead of me, but that's great. I just wanted to clarify that this amendment for the line of credit really is to do some exploratory drilling and to determine if further work is needed in that gap, North Gap area. So I didn't know if you guys had any questions specifically to the funding, but I appreciate, Tom. Thank you so much for providing that update. It's been super helpful.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties.
Yuba-Sutter Live. It's the truth that comes through.
What to do with the Hotel Marysville site? That's the discussion happening at 5:30 p.m. Thursday, September 25th, inside the newly painted Marysville City Hall and here on Yuba-Sutter.live. Presented by Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. During this Hotel Marysville site town hall, you'll learn what's happening with the EPA cleanup grant application and debris removal process, and discussion of next steps for marketing the flattened Hotel Marysville property, how the city is identifying potential developers and revitalization opportunities. And you can speak up in a community input session where Marysville residents can share their ideas and priorities for the site. There's an open Q&A and discussion at the end. The Hotel Marysville Site Town Hall, presented by Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. 5:30 p.m. Thursday, September 25th, live here at City Hall on Yuba-Sutter.live. The Hotel Marysville Site Town Hall, a special presentation here on Yuba-Sutter.live.
Yuba-Sutter Live. It's the truth that comes through.